So I got a question that was probably just intended as an insult, but I actually kind of want to respond to this in a philosophical way. The question reads, quote, "No complaints here, but just some questions. Would you get offended if another man called a woman you find attractive ugly?" So I find some woman gorgeous, and some other guy whom I intellectually respect says something mean about her appearance. Would that offend you? Would it make you feel embarrassed being attracted to the particular woman? Would it make you feel sorry for that woman who is being judged with ridiculous standards by the guy? So I think probably this person was, not really interested in my opinion on this. I think this was probably being used to kind of just kind of prod and provoke me. But I wrote back saying, well, I'm actually tempted to make a video response to this question. We've got a big discourse surrounding self-discovery for homosexuals. And I feel like the heterosexual mentality has to catch up with where the gays are already at. Stick with me for a few sentence fragments here and you'll see what I mean. So there are a lot of people you can meet, not all, a lot of gay people have a story of self-discovery that runs along the following lines. At some stage, they didn't realize they were gay. They assumed they were straight by default. And then at some age, and the ages really vary, sometimes it's before puberty, sometimes it's after puberty, they start questioning whether or not they're heterosexual. They start questioning what they do and don't find attractive. They may go through a period where they think they're bisexual and then conclude that they're gay. The opposite happens too. Some people have a period of assuming that they're gay and then they discover that they're bisexual. And then beyond that, if you know some gay people, you know some bisexual people and so on, a lot of them also say that they had a period where they assumed what they found attractive was some kind of culturally dictated default beauty standard. So, like that they assumed what they find attractive was the type of person on the cover of a magazine, right? A cover of Cosmopolitan magazine or, I don't know, Jet magazine, whatever magazines you guys read, Rap Pages, whatever. But there's a certain kind of beauty standard. And then a discovery that what they were actually into was instead, and sometimes guys with a lot of chest hair, guys who are big and fat. I mean, believe me, every possible kink, every possible right, or they're into really skinny people, or they're into really androgynous people. I mean, that's another thing. Like, you don't really see androgynous people in the mainstream media that way, and they discover those when they're new. In reality, a lot of what goes on for heterosexual people, and not just when you're teenagers, as life goes on and on and on, is really a similar process of very difficult discovery. And our personal subjective sense of what's beautiful does get challenged, and I think it's actually really meaningful and necessary for it to get challenged by conversations of exactly this kind. So, I can remember when I was in university, it was early in my university years, but so I don't know what age I would have been, 18, 19? What are you when you start? I don't even know.
I was 17.
Okay, I don't know. Let's say I was 18 or 19. I don't know. But it wasn't right at the beginning of university for me. But in the first half, let's say. I remember at that time, I went to Germany to learn German. I still speak German okay. And when I was in the German school, we had students from all around the world. So we had Korean students, we had Chinese students, we had a lot of Muslim students from various parts of the Muslim world. So, some from kind of Arabia, some from here or there. Muslim world's already a huge part of the world. Some were from North Africa, what have you. And we had different kinds of Europeans, and we had South Americans too. And yeah, it was really challenging for me to hear their idiosyncratic views on beauty, including just who they did and didn't find was beautiful within that school. You know what I mean? Sometimes it was about, I don't know, some movie actress or something. But sitting around with the other students, yeah, it was jarring and shocking and uncomfortable. And I mean, I remember there was one girl, she was older than me. So like, I don't know, she was probably 25 or something. But at that age, that's a big age gap. She was older than me more. And she was trying to get me. She was trying to wrestle me into the bedroom kind of thing. And I thought she was quite attractive. And it was really interesting for me to hear from these other guys that they didn't think she was attractive at all. And yeah, it's strange. So that was me. I wasn't such a young kid. I was 18 or 19 or something. I was already really an adult. And in some ways, I was a very sophisticated adult. Like, I could already talk about politics and philosophy. At that time, I'd already studied Arthur Schopenhauer, and I'd already studied the whole history of left-wing and communist philosophy. And I'd read a lot of ancient Greek and ancient Roman philosophy. I remember kind of where I was at philosophically too. I read a lot of German philosophy, not to mention. But anyway, so I've done a lot of reading. But still, that kind of discussion it was a really strange kind of intrusion. It forced me out of my comfort zone. And it's natural that it'll have that effect on you, because what you're really being challenged with is intersubjectivity. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But to what extent can I sympathize with and can I understand someone else's sense of what's beautiful and what's attractive? And to what extent does that challenge my own assumptions? As I discover my own assumptions, because we come into this life without like a cerebral awareness of these things. And also as my feelings about those things change. But believe me, there are all these guys. If you talk to older guys in the game, you'll meet and talk to guys and they say, yeah, when they were younger, they were obsessed with this notion of beauty. They pursued this kind of woman, this kind of standard. And then they got older and they didn't care about that anymore. They mature and their perspective changes. And again, in general, gay people are cool with that. They're aware of that. Like gay, and they have all kinds of slang for this. Gay people will say, yeah, they had a period of time when they were only interested in pursuing bears, and there was a period of when they were pursuing otters. They have all these slang terms for this stuff. They go through different periods, and they're basically at peace with that. So yeah, this kind of discussion, whether or not the question was meant sincerely, I do think it's really important for people to sit down and have their assumptions challenged on this. It's important for them to question themselves and question one another. And maybe there's a bad stereotype you have in your mind of people, doing this in order to hurt one another's feelings. But I don't think that's the point of these conversations. I think a lot of men and a lot of women are trying to make sense of their own love lives. They're trying to make sense of, the place in their own hearts and minds where rational thought stops and instinct starts. And that's not something simple. It's not something trivial. That's something profound and of profound importance that we all have to live with until the day we die.